Hello! In this video, I'm going to show you why it's important to rotate your wrist and not to swivel it like this. Alright, so let's just jump right in. So I'm going to show you the difference between rolling the wrist like this and swiveling the wrist like this. So let me show you what happens when you swivel the wrist too much. So for me, that is incredibly awkward and difficult to play that way, to swivel the wrist so much. And many people will tend to use the wrist this way. But what's not good about swiveling the wrist like this is that it's kind of clumsy, it's a very big motion, and it pulls your pinky and it pulls your thumb away from the keyboard. So it makes it difficult, if not impossible, to play fast because your fingers are way out here, your thumb is way out here, your pinky's way out here, and not near the keyboard. So instead of swiveling the wrist, you should roll the wrist instead, or the arm. I guess the wrist doesn't really rotate much on its own, so the arm needs to be involved too. And you just kind of roll like this. So not like this, but you just kind of roll like this. Like almost think a little bit about like a cartwheel, almost. Now you don't want to actually lift your wrist super high like this, but it's kind of like that. Like think about a cartwheel with your wrist low. So if I roll the wrist instead of swiveling the wrist, it becomes super easy to play rolled chords. And if we go back to the Chopin etude, it feels so much more comfortable and easier to play without so much swiveling of the wrist involved in it. And the reason why it's easier is because it's a much smaller motion. And it also keeps the fingers near the keys. The thumb is not going to get pulled way out, or the pinky's not going to be way over here. They're all going to be near the keys. And going back to the cartwheel thing, it almost is like kind of doing a cartwheel, but with the fingers. But keep your wrist lower. You don't need to be having your wrist way up here. And this wrist arm roll kind of applies to all of piano. It applies to jumps or whatever. You tend to not want to do too much of this. Now, one thing I want to make clear is that a tiny bit of wrist swivel is okay. You need that to keep the wrist loose. But many people will swivel way too much like this, and it's too much. It's a clumsy and uncomfortable movement, and it's just going to make piano playing harder than it needs to be. So let me show you the difference between wrist swivel and wrist roll with a closer up view of the piano. So this is wrist swiveling. I can't even play this way. It's like so weird. I'm not sure why people will play this way, but they do. And then this is wrist roll. So you can see that there's a tiny bit of wrist swiveling when I roll my hand, but it's nothing compared to this. So if I try to play fast, if I swivel my wrist, I can't even play fast. But if I roll, it's so much easier. Alright, so that's it for this video. So just a quick recap before we close out. So you want to roll, and you don't want to swivel like this. Alright, see you later.